Like the super wide monitors.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to replace, the TV that you gave me forever ago that has been my computer monitor for years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It still is, and I have other monitors that are my left and right side,
Mm-hmm.
that are nice monitors.
The idea
That
of just like a
I
giant thing in the middle and then two small monitors on the outside.
well, they're not small; they're 27-inch monitors on the side.
Okay, that's big.
Haven't I sent you a picture of this before?
I don't think so. Not
Hold on.
not since you shifted stuff around.
I think I have a picture that I took for Nabeshin. Hold on. There's a lot of work emails or pictures I have to get past first
No, yeah.
because pictures of shelves and shit. I didn't clean anything, so this picture is not gonna be.
Listen,
There's
dude.
random shit on my desk.
You know the people I live with. I live with slovenly. Oh, Mike can hear us. Hold on, let me
Hello, Mike.
I'm gonna change that. I'm sorry, Mike.
What?
What? No.
No.
Wait. Well, they can't see us. They're just hearing us on the stream started screen. sure we'll upload eventually. Hey everybody, welcome to bonus content. I guess we're doing bonus content. I didn't really think about it before I hit the live button. But we're here. It's just Scott, Tony, and I tonight, which you know is gonna get wet and wild. I got a bonus content question, and this doesn't have to last.
I figured it out.
Oh,
It was my VPN server had crashed.
cool. Can you just text it? Tony's been trying to send me an image file for 48 minutes.
I just disconnected from the VPN and
it went through. Got it. Oh, nice. Oh, that TV. I was thinking the other one, the big one,
giant fucking one.
Yeah, that's why. Why do you think I was like, what?
No.
You're sitting like 5 inches from a 55-inch TV,
Yeah,
like
right. Just like something happens in the top left corner of my
You're
screen. I gotta like tilt my whole neck.
Oh shit! It's popping up there. Split screen games are like whole screen games. This is a nice setup though. I really like it.
Yeah, so you see, you can't really see it because I have the light off. The green light on the left side is the mic interface.
Mm-hmm.
The red light on the right side.
It's a headphone amp.
Is the headphone amp, yeah.
Nice,
and then the weird looking like fucking white streak is the my headphone wire. I don't know why it looks weird. It scares me.
It does look weird.
It's a ghost wire.
Looks like a ghost wire, yeah. Ghost wire Tokyo, dude. We finally figured it out. So bonus content question for you. This is just me.
Okay.
Going off the dome. Is there a game? Well, I'll start with this one. Is there a game that either of you guys replay every year, or go back to every year? It doesn't necessarily have to be like a single player replay game. Yeah, nay.
The only fair one at this point is League.
League of Legends.
I don't know if that counts though.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing I'm looking more for a thing that you're like pretty familiar with. You just like to go back to every now and again.
Persona 5.
Persona 5. Hey, that's a good one. It's been a couple years, but
Stellaris.
Stellaris. That's a good one.
We play that every year. New updates came out. We just played it again recently.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we can do something.
Yeah, I'm because I've been thinking one of the games I'm playing. I'm probably not gonna talk about it too much. Is Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, just because I fucking love that game. You understand, Tony?
Yeah.
And that's like a game I could go back to every year. Not because like I'm gonna find something new, but just because like it's really fun to play. It's really satisfying to play. Like this time around, I'm playing it like I'm trying to do only parries, like perfect parries, which is fun. It's like a different way to play. It's harder. I'm taking more damage because it's more risk reward. So I don't know if there was like a thing that you're like, man, I just want to sit down and play this. Like, and it comes up. I guess for you guys, maybe it's not every year, but is there like a game that you guys like to replay?
Specifically like replay.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Ellie. I don't want to speak for Scott, but at the same time, I will speak for Scott. We play games that are already steeped in replay value.
Yeah. So
I don't go out of my way to look for games that I can replay multiple times because I don't need that, Like, I mean, it's not something that I'm like, I'm in a lull. I don't have a specific game that I'm playing. Let me go back and play a great, like that's been Bloodborne for me in the past.
Yeah.
But recently, like, there's always some replayable something that we are into at the time that kind of takes up as much time as you want to give it. So I don't really run out of things and need a certain thing, and need to go repeat.
Yeah.
Though recently I have started filling my filler time at work with replays of games. I'm finished Persona 5, watching a whole playthrough of that, and now I'm 30 hours into The Witcher 3.
And I like that too.
Which has been great, by the way.
I bet.
Because the playthrough started 2 days before The Witcher 3 came out originally in 2015. So, all of the bugs and all that stuff were all in. There was no storage.
The load times were bad.
It was on PC, so it wasn't.
Oh, okay, good. Old movement is a big one.
Yeah, but the no storage thing. The streamer who I watch play games, Co Carnage, he is a huge he will go and he will loot everything, literally everything. He like holds down Witcher sense when he moves around. If there's an herb, even if he's got 400 of them, he's picking.
Yep.
So he's been running into a lot of issues with inventory, and it reminds me of like when that game came out, and people were like, no, it's okay. There's no storage, but the loot you leave on the ground doesn't get wiped.
Mm-hmm.
So you just leave it in a house somewhere and come back later. And he left a bunch of shit in the house, and then came back later, and it was all gone.
I didn't really talk about it too much because it's I would say relatively minor thing. But when I replayed The Witcher 3 earlier this year, I played on Xbox One instead of PS4 where I originally played it. And on Xbox One X, if you switch it to performance mode, that game runs at 60 frames per second. It was like a literally completely different game. Like combat wise, I enjoyed it a lot more just because I felt like I had a lot more precision in what I could do.
Sure.
So yeah, it's crazy to think like going back to that game with all the changes they've done as well, and just how streamlined it is. But I like that because I like that it's not just replaying the game and making all the same choices. Like you get this perspective of another person, kind of like and how they feel about the beats and everything. I do that a lot too. Like go and watch like a Game Grumps playthrough of like one of your favorite games, like Thousand Year Door is a great example.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this is like different perspective. Like they like different characters than the ones I liked, and it's great. It's super fun. I mean, I told you I've been watching Ben Moore from Easy Allies play Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and that's been super fun. So I totally get that. I think that's a good way. That's a good outlet for Tony. It's probably more responsible than like I'm gonna go replay all these old games now.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm just kind of like using my time in it rather than like just listening to music or whatever. I get to use it to experience games that eventually it'll be games that I haven't played before.
Yeah.
But re-experience these old games and also at the same time kind of absorb another person's experience with them.
Yeah. And then absorb that person into your body.
That's right.
That's how it ends. That's how they all end.
And then level up to a more pure form of.
Yeah, your guts goes up at the end.
Yeah.
What about you, Scott?
Okay, let's drop this into a tangent then.
Yeah.
Because Tony did answer for me, and it's a perfectly good answer.
Okay.
So I'm just taking it.
Sure.
And there's nothing outside of that exception.
Sure.
So on to the tangent.
Yeah.
Let's plays.
Yeah.
I found that if I'm probably gonna play a game, or have already played a game, I'm not interested in watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's one or two exceptions that I found in the past, but other than that, it's the only game I will watch is a game that I will never play.
Yeah, interesting. Because I feel like I'm the exact opposite. I only want to watch Let's Plays of games I've finished.
Right.
Not always
So
true, but
it's
go ahead.
yeah. So it's I think one of the more recent ones is there's basically a pixelated game called Faith.
Mm-hmm. Kind of every time Scott brings up a game, I'm like, all right, I gotta fucking Google this.
Yeah, and it's a really, really weird horror game.
Okay.
So I ended up quitting a partial way through, but it was one of those things where it's, hey, I watched an episode of that game, and it's not an episode of a Let's Play. It is, though that game is broken out into episodes.
Okay.
And I watched a full one.
Okay. How long would you say those episodes are?
40 minutes.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think it's like, what is it? $5 an episode or something?
There's some creepy images associated with this game.
Oh, yeah, and I was like,
Scott, you should have told me not to Google image search this.
Oh, okay.
No, it's good. It's fine.
It's fine, but people at home don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
At the very least, not in public.
Yeah.
It's not. I'll put it this way. It is very gory.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Game.
It's cool though. I like the style of it, weirdly enough. But
yeah. So again, extremely weird.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I'll see something like that and it's like, I'm never gonna touch that, and then I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I think that's cool though. I think like In some ways,
and,
if
and it's
good,
so far it's always been after I watch it, it's like, yeah, there was no way I was ever going to play that.
yep, that was a good call. In some ways, that's like the best way to like know video games better. It's just like, one, let me watch this person who has like totally different tastes than me play something, but two, like, I'm never gonna fucking touch this. Like, I'm never gonna play MLB the Show. Like, but like, if I watch somebody who cares about it play it, I might be able to at least glean some perspective on it.
At the very least, something goofy might happen in that game that'll make you enjoy your time with with what you're watching.
Yeah, like the kind of like going off what I said earlier. I only like to watch let's plays of games I've played. Like, I watch the Game Grumps play fucking whatever because they usually play bad video games, and it's great. And I'm like, I don't want to play bad video games, but they do. So I will never play any Sonic the Hedgehog game probably ever again, but they're gonna play all of them. So like, I'm covered if I want to know what Sonic is all about.
Exactly.
Just to answer the question for you,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about rolling around at the speed of sound.
Yeah.
He's got places to go, you know.
Rolling around.
He needs to follow his rainbow.
What an incredible opening mission for a video game.
Probably, it honestly, is unironically like one of my favorite opening missions for any video game.
Yeah, me too. Like, I legit
It's like
love it.
the only good Sonic level.
Yeah, and it's like the only good level in that whole fucking game.
Yeah,
That's
except for some of the fucking Knuckles shit was.
You like the Knuckle shit? See,
some of it I like.
it can go one of two ways. Is the thing, like, you can find everything quickly, like all those dumb gems quickly, or you could be lost.
Like, I am a fucking treasure hunt.
Yeah, like,
God.
I'm basically treasure god. I am Nathan. Yeah. I am what's his fucking face? Nick Cage in National Treasure. I fucking read the back of the declarations. But I'm a red echidna.
I will say all the Rouge levels suck.
Oh, dude, they're all bad. But it could also go, those Knuckles levels could also go the way of, I am lost. I cannot find anything. Yeah. I don't know where to go, how to get there.
It's just, it won't ever go from green to yellow.
How do I find these dumb emeralds?
And the clue is like underneath the rock, and you're like, there's billions of rocks. Yes.
Nathan J in the chat says, I fucking love you. Which it's also weird to me that NATO Johnson is Nathan J on YouTube, and that's like, he hates it when he's called Nathan. So I like, NATO, what's going on, man?
And while we're on this topic, there is one other good level in that game.
Yeah.
And it is the Sonic level where you are escaping or trying to get on the rocket.
Yes. That's a good one.
That level is also good.
Yes.
All the other ones are trash.
Yeah.
The rest of the game is trash.
Especially
all of the Eggman and Tails levels.
Yeah, the Tails and Eggman levels in that game are actively atrocious.
Chow Garden pretty lit though.
Chow Garden is where it's at. It's the only reason to play that game.
Sumo chows, dude.
Sumo chows, raising your chows, getting the demon chows and the angel chows.
Hell yeah, dude.
So good.
Shit was lit.
Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Everyone go play it. Actually, don't.
It's a great, terrible.
It's a great Let's Play. You should go watch somebody play it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool. I was just curious because I've been thinking about it, and Nabeshin and I obviously replay video games all the time. So I just want to know, have a foundation of what your guys' perspective on it is. Joel Puts in the chat also says, "What's up, all?" I don't think Joel's ever tuned into live.
What's good,
IPP.
my dude?
So thanks for hanging out, Joel. Let's how about you guys want to get this real podcast started? Sure. Talk about some video games we've been playing. Then let's get to it. Let me have a nice little sippy of water. You guys need to get water or anything?
I'm Gucci.
I'm good.
Cool. Alrighty. It is Saturday, February 15th, 2020. And you're listening to the Irrational Passions podcast. I am Alex O'Neill, and joining me this week, as always, we have Mr. Scott Guthier and Mr. Tony Horvath.
What's up, dude?
No Brian Nabeshin Jackson today, our fourth co-host. He's already missed. Dearly, I would say. But it is his birthday tomorrow. So, I'd like to wish Nabeshin a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Nabeshin. We love you very much. If you're listening at home, it was Nabeshin's birthday 2 days ago, and you missed it. And that's unforgivable as far as I'm concerned.
Honestly, how dare you?
Honestly, how could you even forget, dude? Tony, your birthday's coming up.
A week from now.
Yeah. You got any plan? Is it literally next Saturday?
Yeah.
Oh God, I gotta check. I gotta know dates better.
Which is the last day of work that I have before my vacation.
Nice. Is it like birthday related vacation or just like?
No, I mean, they kind of played a factor because I had to bid on vacation with my job like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
For all of this year, and so it was just like pick weeks that you want, and I was like, I will take this week, and they're like, that week is taken. And I was like, okay, I will take this week next to it, and they're like, okay, you can have that one. And then rinse and repeat. So I kind of picked one near the beginning of the year since I haven't had a vacation in over a year.
Yes.
And I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll take a week of vacation early this year, and then my rest of my vacation is later in the year.
What are you doing? Doing anything?
No, not working is what I'm doing.
Staycation?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't really have plans to go anywhere. So yeah.
Sure, man. Staycations are great. I took one last October. It was just like, I'm going to take 5 days off and stay at home. And I didn't leave the house for 3 of those days, and it was incredible. I got a lot done, did a little exercise, went for a walk. Super nice. One walk, only one. Singular walk. Well, this is Irrational Passions podcast, which is live every Saturday on Irrational Passions, youtube.com/Irrational Passions, usually around 7 p.m. Eastern. We talk about video games here. We are one host down, but we still got 3 boys here that would very much like to talk about video games. Couple little bits of housekeeping before we get started. Irrational Passions podcast, part of irrationalpassions.com, which is a website. You can go and listen to stuff, read stuff, hear some stuff. We're going to be at PAX East at the end of this month. We're going to have a panel there. Tony's going to show up. He's going to give you a hug. He's coming for that booty. It is at the end of this month, Friday of PAX East, 4:30 p.m., the Arachnid Theater. I will be there. Scott White will be there. We'll have 4 lovely guests with us to talk about the best and worst tropes in the RPG genre. So you should show up, come out, hang out. I am offering free hugs to anyone that attends the PAX East show. So
heard it here first. Free. If he tries to charge you later, call him on his bullshit.
Yeah, if you come up to me and say, "Can I get a hug?" and I ask you, "Can you cash me $5 on the Square Cash?" You got to look at me in the face and be like, "This is bullshit."
That's not what
I didn't come here for microtransactions, which is a top 5 RPG trope, maybe worse, maybe best, who knows. But irrationalpassions.com got some cool stuff up on it that you should go check out. If you've not heard of it, IP Presents is an audio podcast feed. You can subscribe to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you want. And it's where we put out kind of like just general potpourri, like whatever, conversations, this, that, audio reads on our articles. Nabesh and I had a couple of conversations on there this week. We sat down with Cam from Dual Shockers and Mick from My Xbox and Me, and we ranked the Kingdom Hearts games. You'll never believe what was number 1. I should have put that in the headline because then maybe we would have gotten some clicks. But that was a lot of fun. Nabeshin put that together. I had literally nothing to do with it. So if you're wondering like where the guests came from or whatever, it was all Nabeshin. It was a lot of fun. It was like we were trying to get some newer voices, folks that we had not talked to about Kingdom Hearts before. And we just go through the series, talk about pros, cons, favorites, least favorites. It was very good. We also had a predictions show, just the 2 of us, making some predictions about next gen. Maybe we can get a little bit into that later on here because I want to know, Scott and Tony, if you guys got some guesses. And George Cruz, social media editor, wrote a feature this week. It was on, let me pull it up here because I'm very forgetful, Simulacra 2, which is, I guess, like, it's in the vein of like those fake phone games, like where you're like essentially on a phone. And George wrote about it, and he also did a read of that, so you can listen to that on IP Presents. So you should go check that out. Simulacra seems cool. I think I'm saying that. Simulacra. It's one of those two. I'm just winging
I actually like games like that.
Yeah, it's cool. Like if you ever heard of Another Lost Phone, where it's like essentially your phone becomes another person's phone, and you're like going through the messages, trying to figure out what happened to that person. It's cool.
That's pretty cool. I like the games that play with that kind of
that format, right?
There was another one a while ago. I can't remember the name of it. That was like you get at certain times in like real time, you would get texts from like a person.
Yeah.
Through this app.
Yeah, I heard
like,
about this.
Interact with their life. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
It was a really cool game. It was hard to find games that do stuff like that.
There's another one that came out early last year that was like about essentially a refugee trying to get out of Syria, I think it was, and it was like going back and forth. And it was like sending image files and stuff back and forth and like trying to figure out what to do next. It's cool stuff. I am with you, Tony. I like that kind of format as well. All that's on irrationalpatch.com. You should go check that out.
Imagine you're like going about your day, and it's been like a couple of days, and you get a text, and this person, there's fucking people here. What do I do?
What do I do?
And you have like 5 minutes to get back to this person, or they're fucking dead.
Or you lose the game, you have to start over.
Yeah.
Or they just die in real. You die in the game, you die for real. The app deletes itself.
Then they come and hunt you.
Yeah, and then you're next, and then you have to text your friend.
Yeah, right.
It becomes the rings weirdly.
Yeah, I would definitely not choose Alex, or I would be fucking.
Yeah, exactly. I'll respond 4.5 days later.
Yeah, right. I'll be like, call me, and you'll be like, "Whoops, it's been 13 hours."
Listen. In my defense, I was asleep. So
it's fine.
And I didn't lie about it. I was like, listen, I was asleep. But we also like to talk about video games right here on this podcast. So let's do it. Who wants to go first? Tony, you been playing any video games?
I've been playing basically one video.
Yeah? Is it a new video game?
Have you heard of Arknights?
No, I have not.
Didn't I talk about this on the show last week? I thought I did.
Arknights? Yeah, I think you only talked about Tarkov last week.
Well, anyway. It's this mobile game called Arknight. I had been getting ads for this game while watching Persona 5 and The Witcher 3 playthroughs on YouTube while working. YouTube has figured out, I think I've mentioned this before, that I am not looking at my phone while these videos are playing. So they have chosen to play 5-minute ads at an extremely high rate of frequency. So I know like the beginning of every single ad. I know what it is within a second because I've heard them all 1 billion times. And I kept hearing this ad for Arknight that was just like super ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm never downloading this game because this ad is awful and it's so cringy. And then I was watching like a YouTube video about it, and I was like, "Oh, this game actually looks fucking lit."
This game seems cool.
Yeah, it's basically like a gacha game that the gacha characters are towers for a tower defense. Which if you're not already in, you should. Tower defense games are pretty lit.
I know that you like them a lot.
Yeah. So I downloaded it, and I didn't really download it. I installed it on like 10 different instances of BlueStacks, which is an Android emulator for PC, so I could re-roll for the best opening like free rolls, and I ended up doing that almost 100 times. Picked an account that I liked, and then I've been playing that a lot on BlueStacks and then on my phone while between at downtime, like while working or whatever.
So it's just like you go to the gachapon machine, you pull the lever, you get a little ball, and out of it just comes a tower. Or are all the towers anime characters again?
They're anime ladies and
I'm sensing like a recurring themes in a lot of the mobile games that you play.
Yeah, of course. I feel like it won't play well on the podcast, so we'll do it during the break. But I'll have you watch the ad that it kept playing on my phone because it's like a minute and it's great.
Okay.
It's great and terrible at the same time.
Okay.
But yeah, and like so basically, it's a guy like it's just like any other gacha game, and it's like it's that genre is developed enough on mobile now that there are things that are in all of them. Like they all have banners, they all have separate these specific ways that they do things. So when you get into a gacha game nowadays, you kind of know exactly what you're going to get. They all have slightly different paint on them, and they all have a slightly different gameplay loop, but the gacha part is pretty much the same. But this one, like, the game gives you a bunch of low rarity units, which are not as good as like the high rarity units. That's just fact. Like high rarity units can awaken more times, have more stats, have better skills, but you can beat the whole game using low rarity units that everybody gets for free if you're strategic enough. You don't even have to level them up super high. You just get, like, you don't have to awaken them at all. You just get them to the first cap, and you can clear all of the content currently available in the game. So it's not super tied to its gacha, but the characters that you get from it are pretty cool, pretty unique. They have cool abilities, and I like tower defense games. So I've been putting a lot of time into it, and I think it does also a lot of really cool things with the grinding aspect, because all these gacha games, the point is it's really like there is gameplay to it, and if it's got good gameplay, that's cool, but at the core of the game, it's always it's a collector game. You're trying to collect all the cool units and max them out and get them to their maximum forms and max out their skills and do that. And it's a really good way in this game that they handle grinding for your upgrade materials, because once you've completely beaten a level without any letting any enemies get through, it lets you replay that level, but it will exactly copy what you did when you 3-starred it and play it again for you.
Okay.
So it will just automatically do it. So I have it, like, I can just have it running on my emulator and then be doing something else, and it's farming for me.
That's kind of cool.
I don't have to just mindlessly go through and replay the same units in the same formation every time. Once I've already shown and demonstrated that I can beat the level perfectly.
That's cool.
So
that's a really smart system for one of those games.
It does that, and then to kind of compound on that, your units don't gain experience from fighting. They gain trust, which is a very, very long grind of when you use a unit in a battle, it gains like 0.001% of trust. And those trust things are basically like how like battle hardened and how much they trust you as their commander, and it will increase their base stats. So that happens, but they don't gain experience. Instead, you get these little passes that you can then apply to whoever you want. So you can kind of choose who you're making better through this whole grinding process, even though the process takes, if you're autoing it, it would just take the exact same 12 units every time. So it's cool. It gets around a lot of the weird stuff that kind of comes from some other gacha games. And I really like Azure Lane, but I really dislike the Azure Lane gameplay.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a game like Azure Lane, but with good gameplay. Well, I mean, maybe some people like Azure Lane's gameplay, but I think it's kind of trash. So,
it's at least like more streamlined gameplay, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's a tower defense instead of like moving 3 ships around on a screen and trying to dodge bullet hell bullets.
Hey man, some people are into those bullet hell games.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's pretty, like, at least as far as I got, it wasn't really a bullet hell. It was just kind of like random shit coming at you all the time that you just had to dodge. It wasn't like patterns of attacks and stuff really as much.
Mm-hmm. Is this like your primary mobile joint right now, or you still got your Clash of Clans running in the background?
It's still going. Clash of Clans, every upgrade is like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Slow and steady wins the race.
But to be honest, like I'm not grinding it enough, because right now I'm like hard grinding Arknights all. So I haven't been like doing attacks all the time on Clash. So my builders aren't even all working right now. They should be, but it's like every upgrade costs so much money.
The cover art for this episode should just be the guy that's looking away from his girlfriend meme, and it's just Tony looking away from Clash of Clans to any game with anime gacha.
to Arknight.
Yeah. Oh, this one has anime women in it. Well, why didn't you just say so?
Exactly.
I don't understand. What am I doing?
All the anime that I need with none of the filler.
Yeah. Literally, it cuts out the filler for you.
That's what I'm saying.
Is that all you've been playing this week?
It's literally it.
No Tarkov?
And I've been collecting automatic currency in Tarkov, and I went on 1 raid. But other than that, I've been at work all day, then come home and just fucking play fucking Arknights.
Hey man, if
mostly because there's an event going on right now that ends in 4 days, and it's like a lot of grinding to max out the event, but it's super. So I've been hard grinding this event to try and catch up, because Scott who's also playing Arknights, by the way.
Yep.
Whoa.
We got into it about a week late into the event, so I'm grinding super hard to try and make up for 7 days of lost time and still finish the event on time.
Now, to pivot to you, Scott, in the games you've been playing, how do you feel about anime gotcha?
It's fine.
You're just kind of indifferent to it. When Tony's like, I'm going to rope you into this, don't worry, there's cool anime ladies in it. Are you like, you understand that that's not a factor for me, right? It's not exactly.
Trying to rope me in like that.
Yeah, don't use that as like.
Scott was watching me reroll, and I was like, check out the fucking gameplay. And Scott was like, all right, that gameplay's pretty cool.
And then you were like, no, wait, it
like,
gets better. There's anime girl. So he's like, I don't give a shit.
He didn't try.
No, I was like, listen, I'm re-rolling until I get a double 6-star roll. If I happen to get decent accounts that I don't want along the way, do you want one? And he was like, yeah, sure. And then I got one that I wanted without getting one of those, so I was like, I don't know, figure it out on your own, Scott. And then
go fuck yourself.
Then like a day later, he was like, yo, you should re-roll for me a couple times. I was like, okay. So I re-rolled for him 8 times, and he did it once and got a fucking double 6-star roll on his one.
That's Scott
So I
got
was
their
like,
luck to a T.
Just take your own. You know, like I'm gonna just go take my 120 fucking Arknights accounts that I didn't get double 6-stars on and fuck myself.
Scott was like, I gotta stay in this just for the spite.
To make matters worse, I got unit numero uno.
Of course. Literally the number one.
He's got like I've gotten like a lot of gotcha rolls in. So since then, and I've got like 9 6-stars, which is a lot. I've gotten lucky.
He got pretty
But-
lucky. My first
but-
2 rolls, I got unit number 1.
That's so
Yes.
good.
Scott, like literally, like the one unit that I wanted to get when I was rolling was like I wanted this unit that Scott got and any other 6-star. I still haven't gotten any unit even close to as good in that roll as the one that Scott has. So I'm like kind of jealous, but at the same time, I've also got like the super tier 0 caster that is just kind of super fucking broken and also really hard to get. So I'm pretty content with that one.
Yeah, you gotta take what you can get, you know. That's so funny, this guy. Oh my god. What do you think of the Arknights?
It's fun. I've tried a couple of I've tried a couple of these tower defense games before, and a big one that people might recognize is Balloons TD, because it's one of the first ones that that ripped off, I would say, StarCraft.
Okay. Yeah, it's a big one.
Warcraft that started it, I'm pretty sure. And those games went mobile now instead of staying as Flash games, and they're weird. What they do is they do the whole mobile thing with energy, stamina, and levels. I'm not entirely sure if there's a gotcha attached to the balloons one. I don't think so, but all of your units that you get is tied to your character level.
Okay.
So then instead of it being the old way where it's okay, maybe your unit is now a little stronger after you level a unit up or your account level up, it is no, you have to grind stages 1, 2, and 3 until you're level 10, and then you get to get the unit that'll allow you to do the next level.
So like we're gonna take a tangent
And
real
of
quick.
course, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Scott. So this balloon, I again, name an episode of Irrational Passions podcast, and at some point Scott is gonna bring up a game that I had to Google search because I'd never heard of it. Balloons TD, again, never heard of it.
That is an old game.
This is old. I can totally tell. They're on Balloons TD6, and it's BLOONS. If anyone at home wants to Google this as well, this is like old school Flash game. Like I feel like I was probably playing a version of this on addictinggames.com in fucking 7th grade.
You probably were, honestly.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Yeah, that's where that is where it started.
It's just the exposure of like this whole other part of video games I just don't even know about. So I appreciate you guys. Just like, all right, I gotta learn more about balloons now. This weird monkey with 2 pistols.
Basically, it's to sum it up in short, because it gets a bit worse. Is the progression system is ass backwards.
Yeah.
As far as a strategy game would go. Whereas in this one, it's your units are kind of your units. You get more as you complete stages. So as you go along through the story, you will have the types of units you will need through the stages because the game will give them to you as you complete more stages.
Interesting.
Which in the tower defense game is how balloons originally worked.
Yeah. Okay.
That is how the original 3 or 4 games originally worked. You got to use you quote unquote unlocked the towers as you progressed through levels as you needed to use them.
Okay.
And then things got more complicated as you went on.
And then they tied it to
Right?
player level.
And then I go into one of their mobile games, and it's like, what the fuck is this shit?
I mean, like, to be fair, I feel like that's a normal response to just seeing what that game looks like. Of like, whoa, what am I looking at here? This seems like a Flash game.
It totally was a Flash game.
Yeah. It's one of those ones that you're like, okay, I know where this came from. I mean, it's cool. It kind of the gacha element of it at least kind of reminds me of like Fire Emblem Heroes, to some extent. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's a gacha. They're all like that.
Yeah, they're all. I know they all bleed together. That's the only one I ever like played a little bit of, I guess.
Yeah, no, they're all like that.
Okay, you put some gems into a thing, and it gives you an anime person, and you're like, "Is this a good anime person? It's got 2 stars. Is this good?" Then you go on Twitter, and they're like, "That's trash. Look at my 5-star roll." And Scott's like, "I got number 1," and then I feel bad about myself. That's good. I'm glad you're enjoying it though. Anything else you've been playing this week, Scott?
More Tarkov.
More Tarkov.
Yep.
Do you run a lot more raids?
Somewhat.
Okay.
This past day, I have completed my hideout.
Nice.
Now I'm just sitting around accumulating money for no good reason.
So is like the hideout a place that you can go to, like actually in game?
Yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
So it's basically a menu item, right? And you can mouse around to most things, but you also can just enter the hideout and walk in it.
Okay.
But it's not like an open world thing where, oh hey, you're in map A and you can go to your hideout on this map. It's like you go into your menu, you can walk around in your hideout, but unless you're trying to fire a gun, there's no good reason to.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like chilling.
Yeah.
Like a nice chill place. not place if you want to practice shooting guns, you can, but
basically, it's not just a money sink, but it is a way to get extra use out of some other items they dumped into the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you can spend about 4 different types of items that kind of have a use elsewhere to make a magazine case to help you hold more magazines in your stash.
Okay, that's cool.
Or you can turn something called a pile of meds into an actual usable piece of medical equipment.
And that way you don't have to have like 28 backpacks stacked inside of each other, right? You can just maybe consolidate.
You do that anyway.
Okay, fair enough. You gotta go. Backpacks gotta go somewhere.
Right. Like, there's no good reason to have your backpacks not stacked.
Yeah, because it saves room, you know? I get it.
You just have all your backpacks in that one place and you're good.
Now, I'll ask, because we're like, what, 6 weeks deep into Tarkov for you guys. Is it starting to wane? Are we starting to feel the end of it? Tony's playing some other game this week as opposed to just Tarkov. How are you guys doing with Tarkov?
I'm still into it. There's a weird thing with me specifically with Tarkov right now where I have like gotten to the point where money is not an issue pretty much ever.
Yeah.
So I can just go into any raid fully geared.
Multi-trillionaire Tony Horvath over here.
No, every day that I go to work, I come back to another million that just was made while I was at work. So the amount of raids that I can do in the time that I'm not at work does not exceed 1 million in gear.
Yeah.
Unless I were to like go in and die like 15 times, then I would drain my money. Right now I've got like 25 million just sitting there and a bunch of gear just sitting there. So it's kind of weird because like it removes the need to grind to get gear to keep like going in with. So I can just kind of go in whenever I want. So I'm down to play, but I don't necessarily need to like scab in and find some good shit. I'd rather just scab in and find some fucking people to shoot in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of what I did earlier. I think I had a 20 kill run. I ended up dying because I stayed way too long. Because I was absolutely trying to loot every one of the bodies that I shot, and they were all in one place. So I think it was I killed 7 players and 13 scabs on interchange.
Cool.
Just one of the maps in the Ollie section, and yeah, I was there for until 10 minutes left.
Then that's when you died.
Yeah, and it's like I was making hella noise in that area, so it was high time. Someone was like, "You know what? There's still somebody in that area. He'll probably get distracted, and I can shoot him at some." And that's what happened.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes for me too. I mean, it's not in Tarkov, but just in video games of like I'm making too much. No, oh, I'm dead. I mean, it speaks to that game. I think that you guys are still playing it and still down to play too. So I was just curious because I know like it feels like, at least listening to you guys talk about it week in, week out, which I've been enjoying, but like it feels like you guys have done everything that you can do in it. So
that's not true.
Okay.
Somewhat. You see, we've dabbled our toes into something of everything that we can do.
Okay, but you've not
But
done everything that you would want to do?
So that would include going into all of the rooms, looting all the rooms, and then completing all the quests as well. We've done a ton of quests, mostly through all the quest lines. We've hit every map at least once, but I have yet to be in all the rooms, let alone amass the keys that allow us to just look in the rooms that are locked behind keys.
Yeah.
And then to pile on top of that, I have this key called the pharmacy key in interchange.
Yeah.
I don't know where the pharmacy is on interchange.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
When I go into interchange, I loot pretty much the whole map at this point because I don't really care if I die with the stuff that I bring in.
Yeah.
And then I start looking for, hey,
where's the pharmacy?
Where is this pharmacy place?
It must have something in it.
I could search it on a map,
but there's no fun.
But nah.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you.
No, I should just know it at this point.
Yeah, especially if you know the map that well.
Stubborn about it.
That's why, I mean, you guys. I don't know if you mentioned keys before. Is it like a permanent thing that you get? Let's say, like, once you've got the key to a place, you always have the key to that place.
No.
Some of them are.
Okay.
So the way that keys are like.
Well, like the full disclosure, if you have a key that you did not put in your butt, and you die with that key, it is gone.
Gone forever. Okay.
Right. So cool. Yeah, like so the nature of Tarkov, if you die, you drop everything that you have, and if you are playing on your character, you have a pouch. The size of your pouch is based on if you completed all the quests in the game, if you completed a specific quest in the game, or what version of the game you bought. If you have the low tier version, you have a 2x2, so 4 total cells. If you bought the expensive version, you have 3x3, so 9 total cells. So there are another big thing about Tarkov is inventory management is a very big part of the game. And there are cases and other things that you can get that are typically space efficient, but are item restrictive. So you might get a 2x2 that has, that is 4x4 inside, but can only hold certain types of items. So what people will do is they will get a docks case, which is 4x4, so you can hold 16 1x1 items in it, and they will put all of their keys in a docks case because the docks case can hold keys, dog tags, money, and key cards. And so then that 2x2 you can put in your pouch. So if you die, you don't lose your expensive keys. Now the keys that you put inside, most keys in the game are unlimited use. Once you have the key, you can use it as many times as you want, as long as you have it with you. There are then like maybe 5 keys other than that have a certain number of uses. So like a marked room key, which will open a door to a room that could have any item in the game spawn in randomly. That only has 25 uses. So once it gets down to 0, it's gone. and so you kind of have to go between those. And then for like a certain map called labs, you can get a key card that is one-time use. The item is consumed when you go into the labs and is required to get in. So there are a couple different ways.
Okay. That's cool though, to know that you could like lose that key forever. Interesting. I'm very curious where this fucking pharmacy is, dude. You got to find it now. I got to know.
Probably will never lose that key.
Yeah. I just want to know where the pharmacy is. Now I'm in the mystery. Anything else you've been playing, Scott?
I did a bit more of Luigi's Mansion.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't finish the basement, but where I left off, the flooding of the basement was one door over.
Got it.
So,
Scott,
I was right there.
Yeah.
It's at the bottom of the escalators at the Idea entrance. It's to the right.
Spoilers. Scott's not gonna remember this. He'll be like,
there's
that?
Yeah, there's a bench with a duffel bag right in front.
Oh, I know where that is. Yeah. I thought it was on the upper floor. No wonder.
It's like opposite of the meatball on the lower floor.
Okay.
Meatball.
I'm disappointed in myself.
So the map interchanges a giant fucking mall.
Yeah.
And
got it.
There is an Idea store, which I think you can figure out what it's based off of.
Got it.
And they sell meat. There is across from the store. There's a little cafeteria area where they sell Swedish meatballs.
Y'all had those IKEA meatballs though? They're pretty good.
Not anytime recently.
Yeah. The last time I went to IKEA was with my mom in like 2012. And I had those Swedish meatballs. They were pretty good. Okay, so not a lot of Luigi's Mansion progress. Any other games you've been playing?
Other than that, no. I was hoping to get to some more Stellaris this week, but didn't happen.
Sure.
I'm a busy boy.
Busy boy. Cool. I played some video games. So one thing I wanted to talk about was I triple checked everywhere I could, and I'm pretty sure I can talk about this. I don't think there's any NDA or whatever, but I got into like an invite-only project XCloud beta. So they were just doing like, hey, sign up for this, and if you have an iOS device, you might be able to get into it. I think they're doing it for Android soon, but this is Microsoft's game streaming service, right? It's supposedly launching this year. It's been beta for like over a year. I know that some people it's been testing for, and some people have been in and out of xCloud. So for the uninitiated, right, this is Xbox's or Microsoft's game streaming that will eventually at some point launch on Xbox One and presumably Series X this year. But it's the idea is something like Stadia, but like within the Xbox ecosystem. Games rendered somewhere else, streamed directly to whatever device that you're signed into. So this one is specifically for iOS and iPhone. I think this is the first time it's like public, any level of public beta for the iPhone version of it. And Android, like I said, they're testing out as well. I think later this month or next month. I'm not sure how long it runs, but I got to try it out. And I'll say this, right, because we've talked about different streaming experiences on this show before, and I've been severely unimpressed. And I think, I don't know if you guys have ended up trying any of them, if you've tried Stadia or if you've tried PlayStation Now. I've not tried Stadia, to be clear, like, and I'm sure that seems to be the one that it's very hit or miss, right? It could go severely bad or like be fine. I've never heard a great like, oh, it was great, like I had a great time with Stadia. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that. But I've definitely played a little bit of PlayStation Now, and to be fair, it was a while ago, but I did not have a good time. There was a lot of input latency that really just ruined it. So, I mean, I feel like this is like a pretty good test of like, hey, is this something worth checking out, or at least is this anything worth value, right? Is this a service that's going to be worth it? And the little bit that I played, I was really genuinely impressed. Still some kind of intermittent stuff, but I'll get into it. Essentially, there is one game that you can play on xCloud right now, Halo the Master Chief Collection. which is fine. You know, like I'm not super into Halo, so I'm sitting there playing like a campaign level out of Halo Reach, and I'm like, not the game I would want to play, but you know, it is functional and it's working in a cool way. So all you have to do is pair an Xbox One controller to your phone via Bluetooth. Super simple. And then launch the app, right? So from there, you sign in with your Xbox Live account, and you just play. So like you don't necessarily have to own the Master Chief Collection to participate in this beta. They're like letting folks play and access it if you're in the beta for free. But man, I was really blown away. Like I know it sounds like, to me, when I heard anyone that was positive on any kind of game streaming, like I had a very strong level of cynicism in me because I had experienced it, and I was very down on it. And it's not perfect. Like I'll say, like there's certainly a level of give and take, and it fluctuates. So I tested it in 3 different environments because I might write something about it, and I wanted to have like a pretty good grasp on what they're doing. So I tested it down here where I am right now, which is on the ground floor, 1 room away from the Wi-Fi router, right? Connected to Wi-Fi, and paired the controller, and it was like legitimately great. The latency was so low that I could barely notice. Like it reminded me a little bit of the kind of latency that you would get on a smart TV, which is not terrible. That varies a lot, and it was on the better end of what that experience would be, but like less than 1/10 of a second delay, I would say, if I were to try and calculate it with a number, which is really low. I would say it's still not unnoticeable, but it like, especially for folks like, I would say the 3 of us would probably be sensitive enough to notice. Especially you, I think you guys would probably notice more than I would. But like playing on a controller that's wirelessly connected to my phone, that is connected to the internet, that is connected to some box somewhere that's streaming this at 60 frames per second at whatever resolution it's running at. I don't necessarily know. But it ran smooth. It was really responsive. I could get headshots. I could shoot. It felt great. Like I was really impressed. Then I tried it upstairs on the 3rd floor of my house. So 2 floors above the Wi-Fi router with let's say a notoriously poor Wi-Fi connection in my home, and it was bad. It was very bad. Like half the screen was like one thing, and then the rest of the screen was like a little delayed, and it was clipping in and out. And the input latency was really bad. But the impressive thing was that it maintained the connection. In instances where I had gotten pretty bad, like the PlayStation like screen share thing that you can do from over PlayStation Plus, you can basically let somebody take control of your game remotely. Share play, that's what they call it. I've legit never gotten that to work even on Ethernet because it's like, your connection's too bad. Fuck you. So it wouldn't even let me try that. So this felt like they were going to let me do whatever I want, but my experience was going to suffer. But I appreciate that, like, I was still in it. It never like cut to a, hey, your connection is too bad, we have to basically make you stop now because you're not worth our bandwidth. It never did that. And that might just because it's in beta and not a lot of people are on it, but I was impressed by that at the very least. But it was definitely a poor experience. So then the 3rd instance was, okay, I'm upstairs, I'm going to do it over AT&T LTE and see what it's like. And it was pretty good. It was not as up to the par of the Wi-Fi experience near the router. It was a little bit more delayed. The frame rate was a little all over the place. So it was going between like 40 frames to 60 frames and back kind of pretty consistently. But it worked, and it felt pretty comfortable, and it was playable, right? Like, if I wanted to go up to my room and pick up where I left off for whatever reason down here with just my phone, I could. And that was kind of cool. I was really impressed. But I would say, like, total time, I put maybe 30 minutes, like 10 minutes with each different kind of scenario. And when I had a good connection, when it was, like, in a good environment, it was like legitimately great. Like I could play a whole game like this straight up. I wouldn't because my phone is very small, but I can tell you what, the only thing I could think about the whole time I was doing it was like, they're gonna fucking put this on Switch, because I can't see them not putting this on Switch, because I just think that would be like exactly what you would want it to be, which is really cool. Whether or not the Wi-Fi antenna on Switch is good enough for it, I don't know, but even if you were like playing it docked and could still do it, which presumably you could, I was really impressed. And you know, that's, I think, an Android-based operating system, so I don't think that would be difficult to create. It's, you know, whether or not Nintendo would let them do that, who knows, but I think they're certainly moving in that direction. It was really cool. Like, I will say, as far as all the streaming services I've tried, again, not including Stadia, XCloud far and away, like, way better than PlayStation Now as far as like the moment-to-moment latency and how it felt, how it looked, and it ran at a really good frame rate. The other part of xCloud streaming that I, not part of this beta, so I wouldn't have been able to try it out, but is essentially in-home console streaming. So it turns your console into the console that is streaming, and it will stream to any of your other devices in your house over your local network. So that way you could play your games, whatever they are. Doesn't matter. And they don't necessarily have to have been approved by xCloud or not. They can just be on your Xbox, and it's sending it to whatever device you want it to be on. That is not available, so I can't necessarily speak to that, but it was certainly one of those things of, man, if I could, because I tend to play like handheld games in bed now. Like, I'll give myself an hour before I go to sleep to go up, and I'll take my Switch with me, and I'll play like a little bit of something, just because, you know, it's kind of like reading a book for me, except terrible for my eyes. If they could get xCloud to work on Switch, and it's like, oh, I'm playing something, but I kind of want to just go upstairs, lay down, get ready for bed, I could play like 15, 30 more minutes of it handheld on Switch upstairs if I had a better Wi-Fi network. And that's really cool. Like, I immediately saw the practicality of it, and it made me more believe the idea of like an all streaming future of like, okay, like at the very least, I know games would be playable in this state. Not that I would necessarily want to lean into that and embrace that as our never ending streaming future where we never actually have video games with us ever anymore. I don't know if I would go that far, but it was a very good experience. I was really impressed. I don't know if this has been on your guys' radar at all, but it was cool. I'm legitimately blown away. I want to play more, but and I would like to play other games, because again, I was playing Halo, and all I could think the whole time was like, maybe Halo just isn't for me. And I've had that thought before, but I would really like to try out maybe some of the other games I've been playing, or, you know, just anything else. But we'll see. But that was cool. I don't know, like, I think folks can still sign up for that beta. I know a lot of folks that got into it, so it'd be worth a shot. You sounded kind of interested, Tony. I don't know if it's on your radar at all, but it's cool.
Bit.
It's cool. It's certainly, like, the idea that if at some point, if a game is on Game Pass, it will be available to stream via xCloud. Like, it, just that alone of, okay, before I maybe I want to try something out on Game Pass before I download it to my console and then play it in full fidelity or whatever. Let me just stream the first 15 minutes of it and see what I think.
Sure.
The idea of that alone is super, super enticing, and it could work really well. But that was like I would say the top thing I wanted to make sure I talked about. I played an assortment of weird specific games this week. A lot of them new, a lot of them things I hadn't played before. I also played Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. We don't necessarily need to talk about it.
Good choice.
But it's a great game. I've been watching Ben Moore from Easy Allies play it, and just very fun. I talked about it a little bit on our pre-show bonus content, but I'm kind of trying for a like no guarding, all parry, like perfect parry run, and I'm like min-maxing BP more to see if like I can make some crazy different builds. So I'm trying to experiment a little bit with this playthrough, and I'm having fun with it. It's also like I've learned a lot about like the early game in that like the first chapter, and there is a quiz show that happens in the first chapter. And if you fail the quiz show, you have to fight like 4 really tough enemies, but you get like a ton of experience for it. And it like pushed me up. Like I'm over leveled, which is very difficult to do in Paper Mario. And it's great. I'm just having a great time. I got a little bit back into Spelunky this week. I want to know, Tony, where is Spelunky 2 on your radar? Is it on it?
A little bit.
A little bit. Are you just kind of passively thinking about it? Are you going to play it when it comes out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll play it for sure.
It's going to be playable at PAX East again, first time since PAX West 2017. Last time it was playable, where I played a lot of it. So I'm very excited to see what they've changed, and it sounds like that game is like not necessarily at the very end of development, but it's like getting there. It sounds like it will reliably come out at some point this year, hopefully during the summer, because I think that seems like a great time. Just like I'm gonna play this game all summer jams, baby, nothing but the hits. But yeah, I beat Spelunky again, and I pulled up my player stats screen because I was just like, man, what? How am I doing over here? And I realized I think I've finished. I should have taken a picture, but I think like it'll tell you your totals. I think I finished Spelunky like 75 times or something. It's like
Nice.
somewhere between 50 and 75 times, which, you know, to the best players out there is not a lot, but to me is a great deal. And man, what a great game. Like this most recent finish line that I hit, it was like maybe the least resources I've ever had in an entire playthrough. Of like barely had 2 health when I got to the last boss, and I had no bombs going into the last boss. So I had to the last boss is like this giant dude on a throne above you, and he's got 2 minions that are just these huge buff horses with spears that attack you. And I've never had to actually fight them because I usually just throw bombs at them and it kills them in one hit. So I'm sitting there whipping with these buff horses, please God, don't let this end here. It was the most tense I had been at the end of a playthrough in a long time, and it just exemplified exactly why that game is stellar. I also played one of the weird new things I got into this week was Indivisible. I think Nabeshin might have talked about it on the show a little bit. Maybe September, I think this is when it came out. And Mike Burgess wrote a review of it when it came out. It just recently went up on Xbox Game Pass. So I was like, oh, okay, this game seems cool. Let's give it a shot. The idea is it's a 2D Metroidvania, kind of. It's not really a Metroidvania. It's more of like a 2D RPG. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Paper Mario to some extent, but it's full anime, anime tropes, anime style, and it's the same folks that made Skullgirls. So it's I think Way Forward maybe is the name of that place. No, it's not, but I'll look it up.
Way Forward is Shantae.
Yes, thank you, Scott. I'll just look it up. But Lab Zero Games. I think maybe the only other thing they've done. Yeah, the only other game they've done is Skullgirls. So it evokes that kind of anime-ish style and the kind of thick lines around characters and all that, which is cool. I really dig how it looks. The whole hook of it as an RPG is it's turn-based, kind of. It's like active time battle, I would say. With a little bit of action laid into it. Essentially, you're this girl, Ajna, who, for some reason, I haven't gotten that far in the story to figure out why it's happening, but I don't know how it happens, but she sucks people into her head.
Nice.
Which, always a nice thing. But she essentially has, they call it the inner realm. She has this alternate dimension inside of her brain that she can kind of teleport into, and she sucks these people, they turn into light and then go into her head, and they can come out anytime, but they're kind of trapped in her to some extent. And I say sucks people in because like she does not, as a character, she has no agency over this. She'll just meet somebody and be like, "Oh, it's nice to, oh, I'm sucking you into my head," and then they're just with you forever now. And it's like, okay, I don't even like you. Like the opening is a little dark, right? You get kind of her village gets attacked by like this empire, and the guy that murders her dad is the first person that gets sucked into her head. And it's like she's just stuck with this guy now. She's just got to deal with him and the fact that he murdered her dad, which is cool. Like I think it is. They play right into like an unexpected version of that pretty quickly. So you're meeting people while you're going through this very beautiful world that's being, I guess, like oppressed by this empire, and she's kind of out for revenge, right? She's out to stop these people that destroyed her village and killed her father. And you. Of the people that you meet, they become your party members, and they each, you can have 4 party members on your team at a time, and each of them are assigned to, in combat, are assigned to a face button on the controller. So Ajna is assigned to the X button, this guy is assigned to Y, this guy's assigned to B, and this guy's assigned to A. So you would like hit those buttons in a certain order or in a way to have them attack, right? So Ajna attacks with a 3-hit combo, so I can hit X 3 times, and she goes over, and in the meantime, like in real time, it'll cool down the other characters, and then you hit Y twice to do an attack with that character, or you hit B twice to do attack with that. So you're kind of actively controlling 4 party members at once, and it is like, you have downtime where you're like waiting or strategizing or trying to figure out what you want to do next, where those attacks are recharging. But the hook on top of it of just like, instead of you're just hitting face buttons, whatever, is like each character has different attacks depending on the direction that you're holding when they attack, kind of like Smash Brothers, like side specials, up specials, down specials. So like one character, if you hold down and hit his button, he'll charge up his sword, and that'll use one of his attacks, but then his next attack will be stronger. Another character, if you attack with them, they like stir something up against the enemy, and then if you hold up an attack, they'll use that medicine that they just made to heal, because they like stir up a mortar and pestle. So it's like, okay, I'm like actively thinking of 4 different characters, 4 different buttons, and like changing the direction that I'm indicating to, like, okay, I want to hold up and hit X with Ajna, and then she'll do like a launch and launch characters into an air, and then this cool guy who's played by Matt Mercer, great. He like, then he can go up, and if I hit down and hit Y with him, he'll do like, he has a bow and arrow, and he'll shoot up into the sky to hit juggled opponents, and he'll like do extra damage to folks that are in the air. So it's like, okay, now I can link these abilities together, but I have to be mindful of like what direction I'm holding and all that. So it's like a lot of on face value, very simple systems, but like they're all put together simultaneously in a really cool way. Honestly, I think, Scott, you might dig it just because of the way the controls are cool and the RPG mechanics. But it's cool. It's very anime in that like a lot of the notes that it's hitting of like character might be kind of like the chosen one, maybe has a special gift. I get that vibe. She's accruing a team and assembling a party as she adventures out in the world to stop a evil government. Like, stop me if you heard this one before. But it's cool. Like, you'll get more abilities that kind of function outside in the world. Like, we picked up a bow and arrow, and now I can, like, in the world when I'm just exploring, I can shoot like a bomb arrow, and that will open up walls and let me explore. And that's where like the Metroidvania stuff kind of comes into play more. But she can also use that stuff in combat. So it's cool. It's a really cool. I'd heard about it. I'm sure maybe somebody had already come on this podcast to kind of explain those mechanics, but like seeing everything kind of put together at once, really kind of put it like it all comes together. Like, I think if you hear or see one aspect of it just on its own, it doesn't necessarily seem that interesting, like the story of this or that. But when they're all coming together and in like flux, and everything is like you're hitting those combos and combining different attacks, feels really good. And it's cool. Like it the way combat plays out reminds me a little of Final Fantasy 13, just in that you recharge health between battles, so you always come in with a full health. Enemies do a lot of damage, and you do a lot of damage, so it is like kind of a sprint versus a marathon of like, I just got to figure out what is the hook of this enemy and how do I kind of break their defense and start doing damage as fast as possible. So I just fought the first boss of the game, like first real boss, I would say. And it was really cool. Like, it was a legitimately intense fight where I had to really think about what I was doing as I was doing it. Whereas, like, everything else was like, I'm just going to hit all the face buttons and they'll do enough damage to get me through. And that first big fight really brought everything together. So far, I'm pretty impressed. I'm like maybe 2-3 hours in. So I'm not that far into it. But it's cool. It's just got such a unique nature about it. And I'd heard all these things, but like I said, they didn't necessarily appeal to me, at least individually, but seeing it all together, it's really rad. So, I don't know how you would feel about it, Tony, but it has Matt Mercer in it, so.
You know how I feel about Matt Mercer.
Yeah. He's the best of us. I also bought Darksiders Genesis, which came out, I guess technically yesterday on console. It's been out on PC since December. This is another Darksiders game, a weird one. I don't know if you'd heard about this one, Scott, but it's essentially, it's a top-down, like isometric Diablo perspective of a Darksiders game. So it's camera's way pulled out, and it's a prequel. So it takes place like right after this great battle between like the four horsemen of the Darksiders universe and their kind, right? Which is a kind of backstory that was set up from Darksiders 2. So in this game, you play as Fury, who is not Fury. I'm sorry, that's the lady who's the protagonist of Darksiders 3. Strife, who is the last horseman to be revealed. If anyone out there is like a fan of Darksiders 1 was all about war. Darksiders 2 was all about death. Darksiders 3 was all about fury. This seems to be Strife's game. And he's like different because he's got 2 guns. He shoots guns instead of, slashing swords or whatever the other guys do. I played those games. I couldn't even tell you. But what's cool is it's not just Strife. It is also war. So it's Strife and War. You can play it co-op all the way through, or you can just play it single player and switch. You can switch between the characters on the fly freely. It's really cool. Like I played the first 40 minutes of it, so I'm still in the first level, which I was expecting. It's like separated by level instead of kind of being an open world like the previous Darksiders games. And obviously the perspective is very different, but. It is straight up Darksiders just from like a different camera perspective. And I would say it is more akin to Darksiders 1 for sure, which is not a bad thing because I think 2 kind of bit off more than it could chew and turned out to be kind of boring. And 3 is just messy, I would say is the best way to describe it. So this doesn't feel messy. It feels polished. It feels tight. It feels good to play. And it feels a lot more like that original Darksiders flavor, which I am personally a fan of. So if you play as War in this game, he does all the things that he did in Darksiders 1 and generally feels just about the same. And Fury, or God damn it, I'm going to keep making that mistake, but Strife, he plays more like a kind of twin-stick shooter character, but he also has like melee moves that remind me a lot of how Death played in Darksiders 2. So it's cool. Like again, I've only played a very little bit of it. It's been out for a while on PC, and Mike Burgess actually played through it when it came out on PC in December. Seems like it could be a good co-op game. If anyone out there is looking for a Valentine's Day date, they can go ahead and download it for the weekend. If people celebrate Valentine's Day on Sunday, I don't know if that's a thing people do, but I'm single, so. Sorry, this turned into a very weird tirade. But I don't know. I really like it. Like just the first impression of it has been very strong. So I'm excited to play more. And I've heard that it gets into like the kind of Zelda-y, puzzle-y stuff that you would want from like a sequel to Darksiders 1. So from here, the weird thing is like now they've kind of done all 4 horsemen, which it seems like at the end of Darksiders 1, it's like, oh, the next game it's going to be a 4-player co-op game where you play as all the horsemen. And then they just have done prequels ever since, where it's like, no, we have to do a game for Death, and then we're going to do a game for Fury, and then maybe we'll do a game for Strife. And this is, since it's not just Strife that you play as, it kind of feels like a half game for him. But if it gets them to the point where they're going to be able to put all these characters on screen together finally, I think that's cool. And my only concern is this game feels like Darksiders 1, but it almost seems unnecessary that the camera is like pulled back and it's like more like a Gauntlet or Diablo. Just like sometimes it's kind of hard to see, or you get stuck behind stuff, and it's like this game plays too much like a behind the back third-person action game than an isometric Diablo game. That, like, why didn't you just do that? Maybe like budget, maybe like that way they can have more stuff going on the screen. Stuff like that. I'm not sure, but it makes me concerned that if maybe they do that 4-player co-op game, it's just going to be Genesis 2, which might be fine, but I would love to see them get back to like behind the back action Zelda style dungeons and stuff like that. The kind of core tenets of the first Darksiders that I really dug. The only other thing I've been playing worth noting is Bleeding Edge, which it's in beta. There's a open beta for all Game Pass members this weekend. I don't know if that includes PC Game Pass, but it might be worth looking into. Bleeding Edge is the next game from Ninja Theory, makers of DMC, Devil May Cry, Hellblade, all the game, Hellblade 2, which is coming out soon, hopefully. I'm a big fan of Ninja Theory. They really brought me around with DMC Devil May Cry. This is the combat director of DMC Devil May Cry, is the director of this game. It is a Overwatch-style hero game, but it is a melee game, not a shooter, which I think I was just like very morbidly curious about. In theory, and people got to play this last year at E3, and it's coming out at the end of March, so it is right around the corner. But I've been really curious about it just because I like Ninja Theory. I like Devil May Cry a lot. The reboot specifically. Not played Devil May Cry 5, but the other ones certainly didn't speak to me. So I was really excited. Like, okay, let's try and take Devil May Cry combat and apply it to a multiplayer game. I don't know if that's gonna fucking work, but hey, let's find out. And so I've only played one match and a little bit of the tutorial because the beta went live yesterday and I forgot. So I just played a single match when I got home from work between 6 p.m. and 7 when we started. I'm like, I'm going to sit down and try and play this. And I thought it was pretty cool. So there's 11 hero characters. I don't know, they might call them champions or something. People. Freakos. They all look like weirdos, and I'm into it. There's 11 characters in it so far, and it's similar to I guess Overwatch. Like I'm gonna probably compare it to Overwatch a lot, but I would say it is pretty different. But it's similar to that in that you get your attack characters, your tanks, and support characters. And it seems like all of the support characters are healers, which is good. I'm tired of all this. Like, oh, I'm a support character, but I don't do any healing. Like, come on. Listen, there needs to be a new subclass of support for that, like defender or whatever. I don't know. Overwatch used to have it, but then they took it away. Now it's just attack and defend. But I only play in one match, and in the first tutorial, they have you kind of dabble with a couple of different characters. I haven't played any of the tanks yet. But each character's got 3 abilities. Each character has like different melee combos. Some of them are ranged characters that only shoot. And some of them are like kind of a potpourri, a little mix and match of both. But generally, the attack dealers are melee characters. So you're going in, you're comboing, launching characters, doing specials and stuff like that, which is really cool. Like, having played a very little bit of it, I don't know how well latency that lines up with, like, how great it's going to feel. I worry you'll get into, like, those Dark Souls situations where it's like, did you really parry that, or did you just spam the L2 button and eventually get me? So I don't know if that's going to be a factor at some point, but it seems really slick. It runs really smooth, obviously 60 frames per second. It's it's more a stylish game, so it's not like high graphics and fidelity. So it is kind of intent on being a smooth gameplay experience. But the one thing I will say that I don't love is that there's no like launcher, and maybe that's probably for the best, because people would just be juggled into the air and then have a terrible time. And some characters do launch enemies with certain attacks, but I just want to like knock somebody up and like jump up and beat the shit out of them. That's like all I ever want to do in Devil May Cry. So instead, you're kind of your right trigger is your dodge, which you can dodge out of being attacked. It's the only thing that you can do in certain situations to kind of get out of there. But you have a 3-pronged stamina meter, and that varies depending on the character. But so like you can only dodge 3 times back to back before you have to recharge. So it is kind of like maintaining your stamina. Those Dark Souls things of like maintaining your stamina, knowing when to approach, when to get out of combat, knowing when to use your special moves and how they can combo into each other, and like waiting for that ultra that's super and building that super energy. It's 4v4, which seems small, but also 11 characters seems small. So, and I don't think you can do duplicates on a team. I think you can have duplicates in a match, but not on a team. I don't know. It's weird. It like explaining it, I think, would be not very helpful. Like moment to moment, it feels good, plays well, and I didn't feel any of those like spammy Dark Souls parry bullshit moments. But it's hard to know like without a lot of time with it, right? I'll say like I was like I just got to jump into a match. I'm not gonna finish the tutorial, so I don't know what the fuck any of these characters do. So people are rolling up and dropping like voodoo dolls on me. One of them is like a snake. It's just a snake wrapped around a fake man, like a mannequin. And that's the character. So it's very weird. He looks sick as hell though. I'll have to send you guys a picture on break. So the character designs are really cool, and the abilities seem really cool, and they don't seem like tropish, right? That's the thing I think Overwatch kind of falls into, of like this, Roadhog is like, who's the one guy from Dota, Push, the fat guy with the hook. I don't know, or maybe I'm Pudge. Yes, I think maybe that's Heroes of New Earth. Am I thinking of Han for that?
That's Dota.
Okay. Like I feel like Roadhog kind of maps to that character very well, and there's a lot of characters in Overwatch that tend to do it. Not to be reductive, like I still like Overwatch, even though I don't nearly like it as much now. But this doesn't have that. Like the one guy I played was he had a guitar that was also an axe, and all of a lot of his special moves had him playing music or doing something related to playing it as a guitar in order to stun or confuse enemies. It's like, oh, this is like a really cool, it's very like, I wouldn't say it's like my top 5 favorite character designs, but it's at the very least, I've not seen anything like this before. It feels unique. It feels custom to the style of this game. Like there's one like bigger woman that's like on a floating chair with like buzzsaws attached to it, and it's like, all right, this is sick. Like I've not seen anything like this before. And I appreciate that. So the abilities feel unique, and what you can do in a given moment feels unique. The thing that I can't necessarily speak to that's like a huge deciding factor as to whether or not this game will be interesting months from now is like, what new characters are they going to add? How well do characters mesh with one another? It certainly seems like there are characters that play well with one another. Is it broken, and like, what does it feel like to be overwhelmed, right? I was luckily the maps seem pretty small, so it seems like it's certainly pushing teams to fight together as a group more, which can be good. But it definitely felt like it had a little bit of that MOBA vibe of like, I am alone, and 3 dudes rolled up on me, and there's just nothing I could do, right? Like there's no teleport card, get out of jail free card with this one. So if somebody stuns you and then 2 damage dealers roll up on you, it's game over. So by going too far, you make yourself vulnerable in that same way a MOBA or League of Legends would have you feel. So first impressions are really positive. A lot of people have been talking very well or very highly of this game this week or this weekend. And I wanted to spend more time with it before we talked about it, but I just totally spaced last night. I forgot about it. But first impression, very positive. I've been excited for Bleeding Edge just for a while, just because it's different. You know, it is taking on the hero shooter idea, but not being a shooter. So I'm hoping that it will have longevity just for that idea alone. But also, it just feels good. Like that, the tension of like when you're building a combo in DMC and you're like trying to keep it up, like dodging in and out of team fights and like knowing when to throw yourself into the fight or drop one of your abilities and like getting an actual combo together feels really good. Honestly, I kind of wish there was like a number meter on the side of like how many hits into the combo you're in. I think that maybe there is if you get high enough, but I think it had that kind of vibe to it of like I feel like I'm playing an action game, but I'm also playing competitively against other players. So it's cool. If it's on PC Game Pass, you guys should check it out. The beta. But I think that's all I've been playing. You guys want to take a quick break? Break time?
Sure.
We'll take a quick break. Everybody watching, thanks for hanging out. We got some new people in the chat also. I'll give them a couple of shout outs. Joel Puts in the chat. Rashid Muhammad in the chat. Silent Angel in the chat. Shout out.
What's up, dudes?
And when we come back, I have a little bit of news. And then we will also take some questions because I got some questions this week. So we will be back in just a little bit.
Scott, I'm so close to done with this fucking event.
All right, we're live again.
I need 4 more pieces of pizza furniture. So that's 4K more tokens, and then 4 more of the polymerization preparation. So that's another 4.8K. So less than 10K, and I could technically call myself done. And then if I happen to farm more, I can get the headhunting permit. And then if I happen to farm even more, I can get the furniture parts. But after that, I'm done.
Dunzo.
Why there's like fucking random ass fireworks going off outside my house? I don't know.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready? You boys ready?
It's been happening for a while.
Fireworks?
So yeah. Like just at very like long intervals, one will just pop off. So
Do you need an adult, dude?
I don't know what's going on out there. Well, do you happen to know what the standard width of a folding table is? I feel like that's not a standard thing.
Width?
Yeah, but I want to know how wide.
Yeah, I don't think that's standard.
I don't think it's standard.
I don't have a measuring tape on me, but I want to know how wide my desk folding table thing is.
I would guess probably 3.5 to 4 feet.
No, fuck, 3.5 to 4 feet is not a lot of space, brother.
It's not. Do you mean like? Again, how deep it is? Like how far in front of you? Or yeah, okay.
Width of it.
If I had a ball, I would off the top of my head, knowing the one that I have, the white one that is very similar to yours, like probably 8 to 12, in that range. I feel like it can vary a lot.
I don't know, I'm gonna have to measure it.
Bring out the tape, dude.
Yeah, I'll find one somewhere later.
All right. Let's do this. You guys could hear that, right?
Nope.
Okay. Let's do this again. I looked over it. I'm like, that's turned off, and that should probably be turned on. Tell me if you can hear it now.
Yep.
Okay. We'll start over. We'll get a redo on that one.
News in gaming.
I have to go back and find the first episode that I did on, because every time I hear it through the headphones, I'm like, oh, I sound so tired. I sound worn. Not a lot of news this week. As we're in the slow season. Not a lot's going on. Corporate shakeups are happening. But, big but, more E3 news. Listen, before you two go off on how E3 is dumb and bad anyway.
Yeah, because it is.
I get it. All right, some of us still care. And I think, I'm curious to get some perspective on this. For the uninitiated.
Well, hold on.
Yeah,
For
go ahead.
the record.
Yeah.
For the record. E3 is not the Game Awards.
Okay, it's fine.
All right?
Yeah, fair enough.
That's it.
But all award shows are bad, so I'm happy just liking the one that we have. So Jeff Keighley, host of the Game Awards, creator of the Game Awards, he is like, essentially one of the most well-respected folks in the industry. Last year, he did this very cool kind of almost E3-esque press conference that he put together called Gamescom Live for Gamescom, which is a huge European event. And this was his... It kind of felt like an E3 for Gamescom. Like, hey, we're going to try and package something together to present to you for this thing. But on the E3 end of things, he's obviously been a big part of that for 25 years, as we're going to know here in a second. But in recent years, he's also done, it's called the E3 Coliseum, which is a series of panels and interviews done in like a separate area of E3, hosted by Keighley. And Keighley's the kind of guy that, like, when he shows up, a lot of other people show up. He is the ticket to getting certain people there. Some people only talk to him. For example, like, he's done a series called The Final Hours for all the Half-Life games. He's doing one for Half-Life Alyx, which is coming out March 23rd. another little bit of news that dropped this week. And that's like him like, hey, I've been in Valve for a year and I've been watching them make this game, and I'm going to tell you how it got made, and we're going to talk about the process that went into it and the game itself. So he's, very well respected. He put out a statement on Twitter this week saying, I wanted to share some important news about my plans around E3 2020. It's a little screenshot of an iPhone note. It just says, for the past 25 years, I've attended every electronic entertainment expo. Covering, hosting, and sharing E3 has always been a highlight of my year, not to mention a defining part of my career. I debated what to say about E3 2020. While I want to support the developers who will showcase their work, I also need to be open and honest with you, the fans, about precisely what to expect from me. I've made the difficult decision to decline to produce E3 Coliseum. For the first time in 25 years, I will not be participating in E3. I look forward to supporting the industry in other ways and at other events in the future. But I think like the recent news of Sony obviously leaving, and even before Sony was like, I'm done, and walked out last year, essentially they said they were not going to show up to that, or they had said that they didn't have a lot to show, and so it just didn't seem the right fit. But immediately after they had said that they were pulling out of E3, they were like, yeah, but E3 is bad and the ESA is bad. And the ESA, I think, is the heart of this. Before then, we had EA kind of leave E3, and now they do EA Play the same weekend as E3, or the weekend before and around E3, also in LA. And also Activision pulled out not too long ago as well, but they're still, some of their games are still in press conferences and whatnot. And Activision might have come back at some point. I don't know for sure, but it's a big deal. Keighley, like I said, when he shows up, other people show up. So when he leaves, other people will leave. And it was definitely like a kind of quelching the fires of like trying to calm everything down afterwards from the ESA, the organization that runs E3. After the fact, saying like, no, like these are all the people that are going to be there. That Nintendo's going to be there, Microsoft's going to be there, but like this is a big blow to E3, and I know you guys have kind of burned off interest in E3 for a while now, and I think part of that, correct me if I'm wrong, is like it is certainly a console gaming focused show, and I think you guys are fully disassociated from console gaming, which I don't blame you, but.
Yes and no.
Not fully.
Okay.
So in the past couple of years, I just haven't been able to, watch it live, which means I haven't also been able to hang out with you guys and watch it live.
Yeah, and I've been watching it alone for a little bit now, and it's like the thing. Part of the fun of E3 is like kind of, I think, getting a group together, and like when Sony was doing E3 press conferences, they did like this free movie ticket theater, and you could go to a movie theater and watch a press conference with a crowd and all that, which I think is kind of cool. I think it in some ways it's kind of lame, but also it's fun, and like us getting together and watching it together has always been fun. But I get that. It is like, I think if you don't have an excuse to watch it, is way less interesting is the thing. And even if you do have an excuse to watch it, it maybe is a lot less interesting. I just think E3 is just struggling to keep people on board. And it's funny because, like, I've talked a little bit on the show of, like, I'm going to try and go to E3 this year for the first time. And I tweeted, because Jeff responded to that tweet that he sent saying, like, if you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer them on social. So I tweeted at him, I'm like, hey, if I'm a small person with a small site, maybe planning on going for the first time this year, never been before, do you think it's still worth it? And he said, yeah, there's still going to be fun games to see there, which is cool. And I think there is still reason worth it. And I think that shows that he also understands that there are things there that you're just not going to be able to see elsewhere. But him leaving, him stepping down, certainly sends a message. So I wanted to kind of use this as a little bit of a segue into our mail sack, because both of the questions that we ended up getting were kind of related to this. The first one comes from George, Galler Champion. George is his Twitter name, at GHIOCO. G Hyoko, maybe? Like Code Lyoko? He said, who, if anyone, could you see replacing Jeff Keighley? P.S. Have a great podcast, guys. Thanks, George. Tony, like I know like you're less attached to the Jeff Keighley, but like thinking of the E3 Coliseum and like a big stage to run big interviews and talk about maybe the biggest games at E3, who do you think could host that outside of Jeff Keighley? Who would you want to do it?
I'm gonna just interject and throw a ton of shade.
Yeah?
Anybody.
And damn. The disrespect.
Oh
No, dude.
E3 has always been about the people who are invited to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Much less about the commentary afterwards. There's floor time, but you know how it goes.
But for you guys, maybe. But I will say, like, as someone who creates some of that content, like, there is a huge market for the folks that are talking about it after the fact. I think Coliseum has had its own struggles, specifically of just like E3 has never tried to be an event where like, you know, people can give big developer talks and stuff like GDC, the Game Developer Conference, in March tends to kind of be that, where like if you want to hear somebody talk about how the user interface of Destiny changed video games forever, you can there's a DICE or a GDC conversation about that, right? That is a real thing that actually exists. E3's never really been that.
No, it's been more publisher side.
Yeah, it's been more like essentially
But
advertising.
But it's still that publisher advertising side, unless the
Developer.
not developer. I'm talking content creator side thing. It's been way less of that at the actual show.
Mm-hmm. And part of what they're talking about this year is leaning into that, like trying to add more of that content creator stuff.
But at the same time, the entire format is backwards for that.
Yeah. I mean,
it works much better at PAX, where it's, hey, if you want to see something, buy a ticket and fly to PAX. If you want to hear someone talk about it, well, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And with E3, it is a press conference.
Yeah.
What you're listening to is not a content creator, if anything, because there's 10 hours of press conference to go through every year.
Yeah, roughly.
Something like that. Why aren't you listening to 10 hours of that?
Yeah.
If you've missed anything.
Yeah, because that should kind of pretty much cover it all. And then there's the occasional thing that isn't in those, like the Cyberpunk 2077 demo, but that's rare and far between.
And then all of the way that they've always done the creator content afterwards is people doing it side by side next to the show, which watch-alongs can work, sure, but E3 branded shows, not really.
Yeah.
Go ahead, get the Kind of Funny guys to go do something. That'll do well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an E3 show. It's the Kind of Funny guys doing an E3 episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that'll just kind of draw the kind of same kind of vibe, I think. Yeah, and what you're talking about, Scott, is totally real. There's like an identity crisis with E3 that it's been struggling with for the last few years, because they've started selling badges to the public, right? People can just buy a badge and go to E3. Any fan can do it, but that person doesn't necessarily have the same access that the press or whoever that have gone to the show for 25 years or whatever has, because the show is built for media. It's built for those things. It's not built for just average Joes to come up to a kiosk and play a game. Like, that is something more akin to a PAX. It's just different,
Mm-hmm.
And people don't get that from the outside in, I think. If you're just watching E3, you're like, oh, maybe anyone can just walk up and play all these magical video games. Like, not really. A lot of them are behind closed doors,
Yeah. There's a public section, sure.
Yeah, and it's a lot smaller than everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tony, do you have a name of somebody who could fill Keighley's shoes here?
Jeff Gersman.
This is what I hoped wanted you to say.
Imagine Jeff Gersman hosting E3.
Dude,
The amount, like the opinion that Jeff has of E3, and how, like, after him being to, I think he's been to all of them.
Yeah.
Just like Jeff Keighley. Yeah, how fucking fantastic would that? Might not be good for E3.
No.
But it would be great for me.
Yes, I agree, and it would be great for me too. that's the thing of like they would never do it just because they're goddamn cowards and just let Jeff off the leash, baby.
Right?
Yeah, no, I think Gerstmann is like that's the answer I wanted you to say because that's probably the answer I would say too of like someone who is similar to like that lineage that Keighley has been around equally as long, and knows everything equally as much, right? There are very few people on that list, right? Like few folks could fill those shoes, so it would have to be someone like that. But Gerstmann is way too honest. Like they would never let him do that because he would just tear E3 apart. And every time a developer would come up on stage, he'd be like, "So what the fuck is this shit show? Am I right?" Like that would be the first question for every single person. But yeah, I'm totally with you. I don't think, like for my answer to George, I just really don't think there's anyone that could be replacing Keighley. Like realistically, actually, like I think they'll just not do the E3 Coliseum this year. Even though they haven't really said, the president of the USA, I guess, came out there and was like, we don't have any plans to announce one way or the other, and it was like a very non-answer. So yeah, I just don't think they're gonna be able to find someone that fills those shoes. I think they could get like a great host that would be willing to play ball, like an Andrea Renee or a Greg Miller that could do a great job, and crush it, and people would show up and see them. But it's just not going to be the same, and I don't think E3 or anything ever will be again. So, the other question we got was from Jake James Lugo at Jake James Lugo, friend of the show. Shout out. Do you feel that many people are downplaying the importance of Jeff not being at E3? Do you think his exit is an indication of how much the show is changing for better or worse? And do you think normal people care he won't be there? I think normal people don't care.
Normal people don't care. I'm definitely downplaying it.
Mm-hmm.
And the show has been changing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so far it's been for the worse because I don't think they know what they want.
Yeah.
I think they know what they want out of it, but they don't know how to get it.
They don't know how to get it there. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, it's a big deal just because, like, a thing I always bring up when I talk about Jeff Keighley to someone who, like, doesn't necessarily know him is, like, this is somebody that, like, the people who don't trust anyone in the video games industry, like Valve or Nintendo, trust, right? Like, they trust Jeff Keighley with their secrets because he's not the kind of person that's going to leak it. And that kind of trust means that, like, people will go to him and are willing to do something out of their comfort zone for him, a la like Kojima, for example. Like all of the exclusives and Death Stranding and all of that at the Game Awards and Kojima being there, like part of that is just that Kojima trusts Jeff and they're probably personal friends, and like he's willing to go that extra mile for Jeff, and Keighley's the kind of person that can organize those people coming together and doing things, and without him, I think you do lose some of those people, some of those big people, and it's going to hurt everything. And the thing is, like, the way that this was announced and the way that this read was that it really seems to me that the ESA or somebody in the organization of E3 did or said something that, like, put Jeff over the edge. He's like, I'm out. I have to walk away from this because if I continue doing this, I'm complicit with the disorganization of this company, and I think he just doesn't want it. He's trying to send a message, and he wants people to listen, and that's why he made, I think, such a public statement of it, to let people know, like, listen, this is not, like, what is going on at E3 is not good, and maybe the general person doesn't give a shit, maybe even like the fans that follow him on Twitter don't really know or care, or it's not going to necessarily affect their E3 vibes, but the people behind the scenes, the developers, the industry folk, the analysts, I think they do care, and I think that is going to impact a lot of things that we will never probably hear about in public. But Tony, now I just want Jeff Gerstmann hosting the Coliseum. And then he turns into an actual Coliseum. He's like, we're fighting right here.
That's right.
Just makes game developers fight each other.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm like super nervous, but excited to see what E3 looks like this year. So, that's it for news though, and those are our questions. Thanks everybody who wrote in. I solicited questions on Twitter at Irrational Pod. You can follow that. Tweet your questions when I ask from Fridays and Saturdays. But you can also send us an email, mailsack at irrationalpassions.com, or leave us a voicemail, 404-590-1337. Standard long distance fees do apply. And that's it. That's how you get in the mail sack. Some other real quick things here because we are at the end of the show. We're winding down. An outro, if you will. You can follow the site and the show on Twitter at Irrational Pod. You can follow myself and Nabeshin, who's not here this week, but you can follow him to wish him a happy birthday tomorrow on February 16th. You can follow me at Alfighter27. Nabeshin's at NABESHNIN186. Excuse me, Nabeshin186. You can see our video stuff on Twitch and YouTube. Just look for Irrational Passions. You can watch this show live on YouTube, 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays. And if you're listening to this show and you like this show, rate and review us wherever you listen, whether that be Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Pocket Casts or wherever. And if you like what we do, check out everything else we do on irrationalpassions.com. Just a reminder, PAX East, going to be there, going to have a panel Friday, 4:30, Arachnid Theater. Show up. We've reached the end of the show. It's time for bets. Are you ready, Tony?
Yep.
Cool.
I am prepared.
I am prepared. Next week, in Japan, Persona 5 Scramble releases for Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4. Apparently, it's pretty cool. Apparently, it's like a sequel to Persona 5, like straight up. Takes place afterwards. It has Persona. It plays and looks and feels like Persona 5. Let's wait and see, but not exactly the bet that we're making. This week's bet is this time next week, I'm going to search Twitter for the latest for hashtag Persona 5S. How many of the first 20 tweets, Jesus, don't take that out of context, tweets, first 20 tweets, trying to say that 5 times fast. How many of the first 20 tweets will I see results for this search have a Japanese kanji in it? Hashtag or otherwise. Could be a Japanese hashtag. I don't know. Maybe they're talking about Frozen in their hashtags or something. Because apparently Japan loves Frozen. That's all I know about Japan. So I'm going to look at 20 tweets, the latest tweets for Persona 5, hashtag Persona 5S. How many will have a Japanese kanji in it? So this is a number between 1 and 20. Tony?
3.
Would say how many words will the title be?
No. How many of the tweets will just have at least one Japanese character in them? Could be in a hashtag.
Japanese?
It has to be kanji. I will not accept anything else.
Who's the tweet from?
It's just me searching all of Twitter for this hashtag. Hashtag Persona 5S. I searched it before we started the show, and I saw a few with Japanese scripts. Essentially, the game comes out in Japan on the 20th, so I'm anticipating a lot of people talking about it on Twitter.
8.
8. Yeah. Should I get Nabeshin's bet for this week, or should he just rot because he's not here? He does have a lead.
See, my stance on this was always, if you're not here, you forfeit your bet.
Yeah. I mean,
that's my stance forever with it. And you've been like, no, we got to get your bet, though. But when I'm not here, you never get my bet. Fuck you.
Okay, that's right. To be fair, Scott, you never respond to my text messages, so... I'm going to say 11. I'm going to go on the high end. But you're right. We'll let Nabeshin burn. Last week's bets. This time next week, which is now... Which will have more Twitch viewers, Temtem or Pokemon Sword and Shield? And in the event of a tiebreaker, by how much? I said Pokemon by 2,000 more, and everyone else said Temtem. So, Nabeshin said Temtem by 5,000 more. Scott, you said Temtem by 30,000 more. God, I hope you got it right, Scott. I hope it's like
no, not even close.
So
no
some
way.
some
No
first,
way.
absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Like there was no way that was going to be like the total count of any of the items.
Absolutely not. Yeah, you knew. And Tony, you said Temtem by one more, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
So let's see what's gonna come up first. Just chatting always comes up first. 103,000 people are watching people just chat. Just hanging out.
I think it's probably all soda.
Soda?
He's off now. Soda popping.
Oh yes. Okay. I was like, somebody's just drinking soda.
Do
No,
you have
it's,
it? Do you have it sorted from highest to low? Because by default, it's recommended for you.
It's let me switch it to
Yeah, fucking recommended thing. So dumb.
high low. Thank you.
Um,
I found Pokemon. I have not found Temtem yet. Let's see.
Touch it.
Pokemon is 5.2 thousand. I'll search for it.
okay. And Temtem is 1.8.
1.7 thousand viewers. That means I win. I told y'all.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I was like last week. I checked it. I told you guys when we were recording last week. I was like, I don't know. Pokemon has like 3,000 more right now. I don't know if it's ever gonna surpass Temtem.
Listen, dude, I wanna believe in the underdog. That's why I went with.
I get that. I respect that. Which brings our bet point total to I now have 1 point. Nabeshin has 2 points, and Tony, you have 1 point as well. Scott, still 0 points. Gotta get you on the board, man. I feel like you might have it with this week's bet, so we'll see. We've reached the end of the show, boys. I won the bet, which means I have the right and responsibility for a final word here. Anything I want to reiterate or I disagreed with. I didn't disagree with anything. I think we had a lot of good conversations here. Thing I do want to reiterate is E3 is dying for sure. I've been saying this for years. Everybody knows this. And it's certainly like 1 foot in the grave right now. Like if Sony's out, I think like depending on how this year goes, Microsoft might be out next year. And I think if Microsoft pulls out, Nintendo's gonna be like, yeah, fuck this. But what I'm thinking may happen is like a phoenix rising from the ashes. E3 will burn and die, and we'll all be happy. But something will come to take its place that is hopefully better organized, better for people, better for developers, better for people to cover that kind of event, and is maybe like not as scummy. And maybe the ESA has nothing to do with it, and maybe this could lead to like an actual reform of the ESA. But we shall see. Don't give up hope. Don't be sad because E3 is gone. There will always be a Nintendo Direct or a Microsoft this or a Sony that or State of Play, whatever they call them. There will always be times to be excited about new video games and for exciting announcements. I think if that is the thing that you love about E3, you will be able to find that somewhere else. You will be able to find that love and magic somewhere else, I promise. But we gotta kill this thing. I'm gonna go there this year just so I can stab it in the heart. But that's all I have to say about that. Thank you to Danny Wiesner for opening music of Two Player Co-op and our closing music of The World is Saved. Very good songs. Listened to The World is Saved in my car last week, Tony. Fucking cried like a goddamn baby. But it's a beautiful song. Wow. That's exactly the response I deserve.
I said, aw.
Oh, okay. I thought you just said, wow. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow, look at this little bitch. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming and hanging out. Thanks to everybody new in the chat that never stopped by or seen a live show before. I really appreciate you coming and hanging out. And thank you, Tony and Scott, for showing up. This has been a wet and wild one. I think we delivered on a wet and wild one. We talked a lot about anime games, so
Hell yeah.
I feel like we got there. It's very wet.
I was about to say it was just one, but then I was like, oh yeah, you talked a lot about Persona.
Yeah, and we had Persona the Bet too. See, it came all full circle. Thank you everyone so much for listening. I have been your host, Alex. Oh wait, I love you guys. Big hugs all the way around. Nabeshin, happy birthday. We love you very much. I've been Alex O'Neill, your host. Play your games, stay rational. We'll talk to you all next week. Tony.
Something about titles.
Titles.
Let's see what we got. I lost it. I had the dock up.
I saw you in the dock, and then you disappeared.
Oh, did I close it by accident?
You probably did.
Hold on a second. Yeah, recently closed. What happened there? Let's see. We got Knuckles in National Treasure.
I think I meant to write National Treasure 3, but here we are.
Gotcha with that anime. Anime Tower Lady, a bunch of freakos. Anyone can be Jeff Keighley. And IP Wet and Wild edition.
Now these are Alex O'Neill titles, so I understand everyone at home's
So
like
they're all fucking trash.
they're not. These are not as good as the titles that we normally have.
I don't know. I like anyone who could be Jeff Keighley
It's a play on a Spider-Man thing.
or a Batman thing.
Oh yeah, sure, it could be Batman. Anyone could be Batman. Hold on. Thanks for hanging out, Joel. Joel in the chat. He's like, nice cast. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah.
Hung out for the whole show. What a trooper, dude. I like anyone can be Jeff Keighley as well. I really appreciate it. It was me taking the words that you said, Scott, and just like dragging him through the dirt. What do you like, Tony?
I like talking in option.
Hold on. Just leans over.
Just...
Nabeshin's just in the corner, like, what do you think of these titles? These titles fucking suck, right, dude?
Yeah, right. I'm cool with whatever you want, Alex. It's fine.
Okay. Anyone can be Jeff Keighley then. Do you guys mind saying the title? It's 457. I think Nabeshin and I did it last week. No, Scott and I did it last week.
You're listening to the Irrational Passions podcast, episode... What the fuck episode? 457.
You kind of cut out at the end, so I do have to make you do it again.
Fucking second. Let me adjust my mic arm. Hold on. Bringing it in for maximum AS.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Irrational Passions podcast, episode 457.
Anyone can be Jeff Keighley. I was waiting for Scott on that, but we got there.
Yeah, obviously.
I was gonna say he's like Batman, but you were like you went way too quick.
No, I know. I'm sorry. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a good night.